Hello and welcome to the Star Trek Convention. I'm Heather Ferris, your unofficial host for STLV 2019, and I am joined by Fred and Rocky, and we are about to watch the Terry Farrell panel.
Oh, I gotta love me some Dax.
Dax!
Yeah.
So please join us, watch the panel, let us know what you think in the comments below, and join us for the end where we talk about it in our commentary section. We will see you soon. Enjoy the show.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Comfortable.
Oh,
you could sit back there if you want, or I'll sit here.
No,
I can sit.
wow. It's you're the woman I'm totally empowered.
I'm going to come over.
Well, you look great.
Thank you, so do you.
There's nothing wrong with, looking good.
Yeah.
Male or female.
Nothing at all. Being happily married helps.
No, it's awesome. Can we talk at all about that? I mean,
Not crazy details.
No.
I mean, my son's here.
But no, honestly.
Otherwise, I tell you everything.
We love Adam Nimoy. Everybody knows Adam Nimoy, right? We love the guy. We've loved him for years, and we couldn't be more happy for you. Delighted for you. It's great. So, what do you guys do together? You have some fun things that. Not referring to the bedroom, but referring to just what are kind of some of the things that you like doing together?
Eating.
What do you do for everybody loves
together?
Eating. Are you foodies?
Yeah. We are foodies.
Yeah. So
I think we're foodies.
Yeah. Do you make the rounds of some of the different cutting-edge restaurants in the area? Because we got some amazing cuisine.
We do, don't we?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Well, we just took a trip to Berkeley, and we ate at really good restaurants every night. There was one night we went and had Peruvian food, and they were like, "We're so sorry, you're going to have to sit at the bar." And it was like, "Well, okay." Well, the bar happened to be like only 8 seats, and then you're right there for the chef. So it was like literally.
That's the best seats in the house. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we like that too.
Normal restaurants, that would you pay extra to sit there to be served by the chef, owner. And yeah, but they were, I don't think they realized what they were doing.
Plus, Peruvian food is really cool anyway.
Super cool.
Do you have like some of those potato things that they do? They do things with
Potato things.
That's
like, you know
they
that
bury the
actor,
potatoes.
that guy, that actor, Farrell?
They
You know
bury
those
the
potato
potatoes.
things they do?
The guy with that
I'm
name.
sorry.
It's
You know what? I don't know that kind of food well enough, but it was like ceviche, and we just couldn't have. There was a lot of shellfish, and I don't know if you know, but the Nimoys are Jewish. Don't eat shellfish.
So Adam doesn't eat?
You know, I knew that Jewish people did not eat pork, but not the shellfish thing.
Well, some. Yeah.
Well, not Adam.
Yeah. Well,
Not my Adam. He doesn't.
Keep in mind, Dad was raised Orthodox.
Yeah, it was like super.
Leonard was like, super.
Yeah.
How much, if at all, did you know Leonard?
Well, he did Becker. He did an episode of Becker. I met him a few
You're right,
times.
he did an
and he
episode of Becker.
Yeah, he did. But we did, when he did Primordials, we were on Deep Space, and there were a handful of us. Voyager was on, because I think I know Bob Picard was with me, and Armand, and we all, they were like, "Please, you guys, go up to the observatory because there's a thing called Primordials, and we need to support Leonard." We're all like, "We're there," and of course we all had to wake up super early, so we were feeling like we were doing a good solid. We're doing one for the team, and I even have pictures of me with him, and I'm laughing too hard at something he's saying, which is like, why did they catch that moment?
Although Leonard was an extremely funny man. He had a very dry sense of humor too,
Yeah.
So when he hit you with it, would be really good. I think that
Well, and I was a super big fan of his.
Yeah. Well, everybody was.
Right.
But I think.
But when I was 11, I won tickets to see him as Vincent.
Oh, he was unbelievable. I mean, Vincent, Equus.
At Paramount Theater in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Little did you know how the
Little
Nimoy
did I know.
family would entwine itself into your destiny.
Yeah, I'm going to marry your son.
So great.
It's
Awesome.
I'm 11, he's
So great.
18, we're getting married someday.
So great. So great.
But yeah, so he did Becker, and well, I'd met him a few times, and every time I met him, he forgot who I was. And I was like, well, I'm in that show, Deep Space Nine. Oh, how's that working for you? Did you just start acting? No. Love it. We've had this conversation before. And then the character he played on Becker, he was my professor and I was his favorite student at the time. And he used to be Becker's professor, Ted Danson, only he didn't remember Ted Danson. And Ted Danson was his favorite student at the time. But of course, and then Becker's going crazy that he doesn't remember him. And at the very end, there's a little tease that, of course, we've been taking the piss out of Becker the whole time.
That's great. It was a great show, actually.
It was a great show.
It was a great run, and I thought that you and Ted had great chemistry together.
We did.
So that was awesome.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about Jadzia. I got to thinking a lot about Jadzia, and fascinated with the gender orientation mystery of the character that was never really fully explored when the show aired. I think LGBTQ has been embraced by our society finally, long overdue, right?
Yes.
And I think that the Dax character was coming to, in its own way, coming to terms with that whole idea of gender identification and gender orientation in a unique way. I mean, the Dax has both male and female components in the character.
Can I help you here?
Yeah.
Okay. The symbiont.
The symbiont, yeah.
Whose name is Dax.
Yeah.
Right. Was androgynous.
It was androgynous. But
So
it took on male and female forms, right?
No.
No.
No, it didn't take on the forms. It was put in
Yeah,
male.
it was put in, yes.
So it would go with whatever the host wanted. It had no preference whatsoever. I think what was interesting about Jadzia in particular is because well, she's the only one we're getting to know, right? But, so she has all of the memories of all of the previous hosts, and
Which is to say experiences that were both male and female.
exactly.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, that's what complicates it, right? I think for people when they think about it. But Jadzia, I think her sexuality and how she looked at it, just Jadzia, I think she was pansexual because she had sex with aliens, males and females, and it didn't
Right.
seem to matter. And she really, I think, was ahead of her time in how that people didn't really label my character this way, but it was someone who fell in love or was ready for an adventure for whoever that person was or being was, without regard for whatever was socially acceptable or looked a certain way. It was like there were no rules. The only rule was, are you interesting to me, and do I want to experience more of you?
And that's what's so great about the character and what's so forward-thinking about the character.
Exactly.
You know, so I think that resonates to me today now.
Right.
Culture has finally kind of caught up with that.
Yeah.
That it was
There have always been people that way,
Yeah.
just no one talks about
That's
it.
right, but
Yeah.
that's why the character for the time, 25 years ago,
Yeah,
was a forward-thinking character.
exactly.
It's kind of cool that you got to play that character.
So super
You know what
cool.
I'm saying?
Yeah, it gave me goosebumps just now.
That's right. So
Yeah.
now, let's go back to the beginnings of the role. How did you audition? How did the whole casting thing come about?
Well, I tried to audition for it, and they had a lot of other actresses they wanted to see. They didn't think I was quite ready for the part, and Junie Lauer didn't want to see me. And this
Well,
was
you had
when-
done Hellraiser already at that point, right?
Yeah, I started my first job. I was 19. So at this point, I'm 28 years old. So I've worked.
Yeah.
I was a
You were in the
cover girl, and I was an actress. It was just, I didn't have a ton of experience, but I'd already worked a lot. People already recognized me. My first job was a show called Paper Dolls, and that I was it was right on the heels of me being a cover girl, and I did a lot of commercials, so I was very recognizable. And it was a time where TV Guide did these commercials, so I was just a little bit probably oversaturated out there, you know, between covers and people knew my face, they didn't know my name, but then suddenly when I got Paper Dolls, it was like my name was out there, and TV Guide had these commercials, so you say, hi, I'm Terry Farrell, I'm on this new show called Paper Dolls. So now there's a name to go with my face, and I suddenly couldn't go like to the grocery store without, hey, you're that girl. And it was, so that was my Andy Warhol's 15 minutes of, holy shit, I want to go home. I don't want to see anyone. I'm afraid to go out.
So you actually had a negative reaction to that kind of...
It was overwhelming.
Yeah.
It was a little scary.
It's so scary.
Yeah, and I moved away from home when I was 17 and lived alone, and I had some really unpleasant things happen to me with regards to men, and so that made me feel even more kind of
Yeah, you had some
scared.
deep moments of your own.
Yeah.
It's screwed up, but I hate to
Yeah,
say it, but
it, you know, and then partly the business was just like that. And a lot of it was,
especially then.
yeah, especially then.
It was bad.
You just suck it up. You didn't know, oh God, that sounded terrible, but you just deal with it. You just deal with it. It's a part of it. Unfortunately, it was just a negative part that you just had to deal with because otherwise you'd lose your job.
It's terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, even on deep space.
But did you know, was it Julia Lowry that was doing the casting?
Yes, and actually I read for Ron Surma, and thank you for bringing me back. That's why you're great. You're out here to help me. That was for Oz. Yeah, and you know what? The great thing was they were really trying to find Dax. So it was they really combed Hollywood. And I did get through the first set of auditions, and I ended up getting the part of the cat in Red Dwarf. That combination didn't work because the character I was playing was a black, effeminate man, which was funny in the English version. A white woman playing that part, not funny. I looked great, but it wasn't funny. So they didn't keep me on, and then the series didn't go, which was great because then, when I was available, I got to read for... They were ready for like, holy shit, we haven't seen her and we haven't found Dax, so I got to go in and...
It's a little surprise to me that you didn't click the first time because you have a very distinctive look.
Yeah.
And that's what they want in characters. It's
right.
Notwithstanding your skill level, you had a definitive look.
Right.
And I would think that right off is an advantage. But,
well, and everybody was reading for it. I don't know, it was like every tall, attractive woman I knew read for it. I mean, there were plenty of women who were like, you got it? Like a little like, you?
You look a little...
I read for that, and I'm a better actress than you.
You had a certain look that was a little different and stand out from a lot of the other kind of actresses.
And you mean that in a good way.
I mean that in a very good way.
Thank you.
It was distinctive. So, okay, well, so second time around, you clicked it. What was that process like? How many layers of people did you have to go through? It's
actually,
difficult experience, right?
Difficult experience, but not so many layers at that point because they were so far down to the wire. By the time I got the job, it was August 22nd. And I know this because I read with Mariska Hargitay. Pardon me, I like when I had a hard time saying her name. Clearly, she's doing fine.
She was reading for it too?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And we were like, okay, so if you don't get it, if I don't get it, I hope you get it.
Wow.
And if you don't get it, I hope
so
you know.
She read for Dax too.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah, super cool. And I was like, and if I get it, I'm going to give you a present. So I went to Tiffany's and I got us key rings. I got one for me because I was like, holy shit, I got the part. And I got it for her because it was just like a little friend thing to do. But August 22nd.
All right, when were you going to start filming?
August 22nd.
I mean, was it that fast?
That was yeah.
You got cast and bam, you're doing.
Yeah, because they were already 6 weeks in.
I see.
I was the only character left.
Oh, that's crazy.
It was crazy and it was really difficult because they were all like, everybody was super tense by then. They'd all bonded by then.
Did you know about the whole dots
no.
gag yet?
They actually gave me a forehead, which is what they had for the Next Gen. The man who had
all right, yeah.
He was a trill.
It's enough with the foreheads already. I mean,
they took
nose, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Oh,
but the spots were great.
And it was because from Monica Jansen, I guess they wanted her to play Dax.
Right.
Yeah. But she was already, she knew who she was.
Who was it that came up with that whole, is that Michael Westmore?
Yes.
What an amazing, elegant makeup.
I know,
you know?
he played a character that had spots,
Yeah.
and he made him,
Yeah.
I don't know, it all
Okay.
together.
What,
He said, let's do this. So we did, I think we did a week's worth of makeup testing with the forehead. So we shot some stuff. Carrie McCluggage, president of Paramount, went, oh my God, you hired a model and you made her look like.
so fortunately they got rid of that. The dots were they airbrush? What was the technique?
Hand painted
They were
with
hand-painted.
watercolor
Wow.
for the first
Each
couple of years.
dot.
Yeah.
You'd think they'd have a stencil or something, right?
No, Mike
It's
Westmore
crazy.
did by hand.
Well, that's Mike Westmore for you. Let's hear it from Mike Westmore. Actually, a few years ago, we had you
Yes.
do the wedding scene
My idea.
with Mike. It was so
Oh,
great.
Thank you.
So great.
Because I was like, Steph, what do you think of this idea?
Really
She's like,
great.
let me ask
Yeah, that's
Adam.
good.
Adam, what do you think of this idea?
Yeah, that's great. And I said, yeah. Okay, so they've got they've got you fitted for wardrobe. They've established finally the makeup look. Now you have to get into the gestalt of the character. And who is kind of guiding you through that before you're kind of developing your own insights? Who really had the?
No, it was
who was it?
Michael Pillar
It was Michael.
and Rick Berman. I can go up to their office.
Ira hadn't
They-
come on yet, or
Or-
Ira was a little later, or?
He was later. I don't remember
Yeah.
meeting him for years.
But I mean,
actually.
the
I
great-
remember the fourth season was when I remember talking to Ira and saying, I mean, maybe he was there. He wasn't on. I had my own.
But I'm just saying,
Relationship
you
with-
couldn't have a better mentor in terms of concept than
Pillar.
Michael Pillar. He's an incredible,
And he
beautiful,
created Dax.
genius guy.
He created the character.
He was a phenomenon.
Yeah.
And so
But
you
it was
had,
difficult because they didn't know exactly what they wanted from me,
Yeah.
and it's really hard. I mean, even if you're an experienced actor, to say that you're like highly experienced, you're playing 7 different lifetimes.
yeah.
But here,
It's an amazing challenge, though. I mean,
yeah.
you know,
Oh, it was so exciting.
somehow you
right?
have to
And it-
synthesize multiple personalities and viewpoints.
And what does that mean exactly?
And
How
again, the
much
whole
am I
gender
taking
thing,
on?
and, you know.
Is it a personality disorder? What is it?
Are you schizophrenic? I mean, do you lapse into different personalities, or?
How much
No.
do you take it on?
I thought that Jadzia was an incredibly reconciled personality. There was nothing disjoint about the personality.
No, and you couldn't be, because otherwise they would not let you be joined.
What did Cisco used to call you? The old man?
Old man.
That's what I'm
That
saying.
didn't
You were
really-
more like
That didn't really catch on.
No, but and again, it's a man is a gender. But the point
Yeah.
is, you were sort of kind of like almost a Yoda character. You had
Well,
the
they would be like
knowledge.
Yoda and Grace Kelly.
Yeah, great,
It's
perfect.
like, well, I don't have to work at the Grace
Perfect.
Kelly part.
Yeah.
The Yoda part I need to work on. So I started reading about Taoism, and actually there was a way that I thought about it. I don't remember. I'm sure my friend, a friend of mine helped me with this, who introduced me to Taoism and Dalai Lama and all this other.
What is the fundamental tenet of Taoism that you wish to endow into the character? Which to endow into the character?
I don't remember now, except for just being in the moment. And it is what it is. You are in
Kind of the serenity of.
Yeah. My life has become so much more, having a life.
And then, how did it feel to walk on that unbelievable set?
Oh,
That just brought it all to
crazy.
life for you, right?
Well, what actually had to happen for me was having to look at it as different, instead of lifetimes, that my life was full of lifetimes, and that felt natural to me to think of my life that way, because my mom had been divorced a few times, so those were like different lifetimes, different families. And then I started working when I was 9, and I mean, I still went to school, but I started working for my mom at her salon, and it helped her as much as it helped her to have me busy, I'm sure. But then at that point I started babysitting at 11. I just always had another job, that kind of thing. And then I started modeling, that was another lifetime. Started acting, that was another lifetime.
So you could work with all that?
Yeah, that I could work with.
Right.
The op set was so overwhelming. Every other job I'd had was much smaller scale set-wise. Ops was like it was like a theater, and I'd never done theater, so, I mean, other than high school musicals, that doesn't count. Not in the world we're talking about. But ops was enormous.
Yeah. And
I mean, how do you explain the scale of that?
The promenade, I mean, just so crazy.
But the promenade, you're moving and all of that, but ops, we're all acting at the same time on it. And, you know, someone's as far away as the front row, and you're projecting that far.
Right.
And
So it is almost like a theatrical experience.
yes, yeah, especially whenever you did a master shot. And I was very proud then, too. I didn't want to write down my lines. I mean, I got over that eventually, but it took years.
TV is not like that. TV is much more in your face and much more close to the media.
Yeah.
So
that was my experience. Extreme close-ups, masters, but they would go a little bit into a master and then go right into close-ups. And a lot of what played on Deep Space is we had a lot of big sweeping masters where you felt the grandness of what our set was.
Well, as grand as your sets were, what a huge and complex and fascinating ensemble you had to deal with.
So,
I mean, DS9, it's a huge looming ensemble. There are 20, 25 regular or semi-regular characters. It's incredible.
Yeah, and as I was listening to Chase speak too, and it was so great. First of all, does she have her hair short again? I was signing autographs, so I was like kind of peeking around. I love her with her short hair.
You know, it looks great.
So cute, right? And she has gotten so grounded. It's amazing. So that's not my fault.
That's me, sorry. We love her, and in fact, you know, she's one of our hosts and moderators.
She's amazing.
She's amazing.
She's amazing.
We knew that.
Yeah.
We knew that all along.
Yeah, she created her success. She's an amazing woman. But overhearing her, it was like, what's so great is how many characters were so full. We didn't just have guest stars or reoccurring characters that were, they were kind of filler. It was like they had rich backgrounds and rich storylines to contribute to all of it, and made everything seem so much more real when you're watching the show.
Yeah, it's like Shakespeare.
There's dimension.
Yeah, and so
you care about them.
You care about them, and you care. I think honestly, the character arcs and the character relationships is part of what made that show so special.
I do too.
So let's talk a little bit about the relationship, starting with Dax and Cisco. And that was a great dynamic in working with Avery, who is a brilliant and fascinating and somewhat idiosyncratic personality himself. He's a fascinating guy.
Yeah, he is.
How did you guys click off together?
Well, in the beginning, it was very intimidating, and
he can be intimidating sometimes.
Yes.
I think he does that on purpose.
I think he totally did it on purpose.
He's great. You know, he's got a little bit of that Spencer for Hire thing going on.
Totally. Well, yeah, and he was. Yeah, I mean, come to find out, he was a little angry that he couldn't shave his head to begin with, which it was like, wow, if I'd known, because he did look like, you know, kind of a Ken doll, a brown Ken doll. Didn't he? He looked so much better when he shaved his head. But at any rate,
true. Yeah.
We all know that.
You hadn't known Avery before that, had you? Or,
No.
Okay, so
And I had this scene. David Carson's directing, and he calls me old man, and it was like, and I'm supposed to, you know, be embodying this, you know, old man.
You have to have sort of project more gravitas than Cisco.
Thank you.
Right.
Not possible.
That's a tough
Because
assignment.
Avery's doing
it's a
his,
tough
like,
assignment, right.
he's doing his whole, like, thing at me, and I'm like, what?
So how do you cope with that?
I pulled him aside. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm like almost near tears, and I like said, Avery, I'm so sorry, I need your help. I can't one-up you. I mean, really, like, I'm only 28, and you're like way more experienced than me.
So that's honest.
Honest.
Okay.
And help me.
Yeah.
Please help me.
But he did, right?
He did.
Of course.
And I think in the long run, it still was really actually poignant that old man didn't work. But it helped our relationship because it was someone who Avery was someone who said, come to the table and play with me. I know you can do it. Huh, dig, do it, kind of thing. And it was like, I look back and it's like, fuck yeah, I showed up. I did it.
Yeah.
I stood in my ground. I
Threw
was,
down
you
the
know,
gauntlet.
yeah.
That's good.
And sometimes inside I was like going, woo! And on the outside I'm like, I'm cool. But on the inside it was like, shit, he was loud. That was a little scary.
I like the fact that characters like Dax and Kira didn't fall into the kind of stereotypical paradigms that men think of for female roles. And
all of our writers.
Yeah, you know.
I mean, we were really lucky that we had
Yeah.
stuff to play. And
Really
then we were
good.
also really lucky that both of us were really ready to stand in our power, discover it, and have it in a way that wasn't, well, certainly Dax, I didn't feel like I had to, you know, put some kind of angry thing on to be masculine and strong. It was like, no, I'm strong, I'm right, I have experience, and I'm going to save the world today. We're going to save your asses. Watch us, we're Starfleet.
I don't like the concept of ascribing strength to masculinity. I think that's dysfunctional to begin with.
Right.
So I just like the fact that characters could be strong on their own.
Right.
That doesn't matter.
But it's kind of like that's been the example. There's this weird kind of,
Well, that's the
because
whole.
they them bitches, you know.
That's
but we weren't.
the whole misogyny of how male culture
Thank you.
kind of controlled, you know, female culture for so many centuries. You know, we're just still trying to get past that.
Right.
But I love that about the characters, and really the characters really serve more the purpose of the story, which was really good.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I still, having said that, I still love the fact that this crazy relationship developed between Worf and Dax.
I know.
And I loved it.
And it's so weird because it's like, here he is. He's this big.
He's a teddy bear of a
Klingon.
Klingon, you know.
Me man, you woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought that it was a very poignant relationship. I really did. I thought there was a lot of heart, sensitivity to it. So how did you and Michael sort of, when you saw that the writers were going to move in that direction, how did you two kind of get together or huddle together and say, all right, how are we going to play this now?
Well, it was great because the first scene we had, because we were already friends, we were like, okay, let's flirt with each other. Maybe they'll write more stuff for us.
Oh, so you actually were trying to put the idea in the writers' minds already?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, because then, you know, they say that's chemistry. Well, you create
Smart.
chemistry.
Smart.
I like you. I find you interesting. It's chemistry, right?
Yeah.
So if you are acting it, if you're both on board with it, you're creating your own chemistry. And then there's a history already because we were friends, that there's just an ease in that. So then when we did have stuff, it was just joyful. It felt like we won, that we got to work together, you know?
Yeah, it was wonderful and culminating in the wedding, which was so much fun. And it was
Such a great
so
episode.
ceremonial and festive in its own peculiar manner. It was,
Yes.
it was a really
Yeah.
great time.
Yeah.
And then when we got to a couple of years ago, see you get back into the wedding dress, which you still fit perfectly, I might add. It's congratulations.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I didn't have the right bra on with it, but we can take all the wardrobe with us. You know, I had fittings for the size of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Speaking of the size,
You know, without getting, and we're going to go to Q&A in a minute or two, without getting into any bad feelings, though, and we love Nicole,
Yeah.
who did a great job,
Of course.
but we were sorry to see you go.
Thank
on the show,
you.
know.
Thank you.
Everything happens for a reason,
Yeah.
but still, I know a lot of us miss Jadzia,
Thank you.
and coming so close to the end of the show was kind of jarring.
It was jarring.
You know.
It was. I was really surprised. It was a hard decision to
Well, you had your reasons, and we can just leave it at that, I'm saying, but...
well, it was more a matter of I I felt like I deserved a negotiation. I wasn't given one.
Yeah.
And I felt like I had to stand up because there were opportunities that happened for me within that 6 years that if I were a man, I would have been given the opportunity to take advantage of it.
That's insidious and unfortunate.
But that's what I was fighting
But
for.
even having said that, this kind of thing happens a lot
Right.
in the business. So.
And then there's other stuff that happens that you go, you know what, is it worth it? Do I really want to work like this anymore? And, you know, because people, well, that
it all happens for a reason.
But I got Becker.
Yeah.
And there were 2 other things I
great.
tested for in between.
Yeah.
And I'll get something else, you know.
Or,
Watch me go, go, go.
And so the great news that you just gave me a few minutes ago is
Yes.
you're kind of putting your hat back in the ring and you're going to maybe go to do some more work now,
I
right?
am.
That'd be good, right?
Yeah. Actually, Kitty Swink and
Armin's wife.
Armin's
Kitty
wife.
Swink.
And a director named Kristen Baker are doing a film called Storyville, which is, I forgot to tell you that, I'm sorry, because we see each other so briefly before it came out. But it's about a district right outside of New Orleans from the turn of the last century, like the late 1900s, and it ended in 1800s and ended in 1917. It was where women ran all these brothels. True story. And they tried to erase it from New Orleans history. Well, they're making a movie about it, and I'm going to be one of the madams. Los Angeles.
LA, huh?
In October.
Wow.
And there's other actresses you might know, but I'm going to let them tell you.
Good luck on
That you
that.
might see this weekend.
Very nice. Yeah, we have got a couple more surprises up our sleeves for the weekend. All right.
Okay, well, but it doesn't have to do with Star Trek, sorry.
But it's so
I'm
it's
very excited to see
so awesome.
Picard. Who's excited to see Picard?
Yeah. Time's getting away from us. Why don't we start over here? Okay.
Thank you.
Can we get some lights on over there? I don't know if we can or not. But yeah, thanks so much. Here we go.
But you seem like a method actor. So when you get a script, how do you break it down? What's your routine? That sort of thing.
What's my routine? Well, first I try really hard to just read it for the story, and really that doesn't work because I'm too curious about my character. So I read it the first time and I'm like really selfish and self-indulgent and all about my own ego about what's my character doing. Then I read it again for the story and everything else. And then I go through and start to think about the relationships and what my objectives would be in each scene. Just to the short answer. Thank you.
That's good method.
Thank you.
Did you have an acting teacher or acting coach?
Yes, I actually studied with a teacher named Kate McGregor Stewart in New York. And I studied with Stella Adler in LA when she was alive.
Stella Adler's
Oh
amazing.
my God. It was a great school. And it's so weird now, the neighborhood looks totally different. But Nana's son is studying there right now.
Great.
Very cool. But I met her a couple times and she...
Buster?
no, Django.
Jacob.
Yeah.
Jacob.
And she was like, darling, they're going to throw you off the stage because you're beautiful. And you just keep getting back up there. You just keep getting back up there. I was like, this is me sharing a taxi in New York with Stella Adler.
Training is key.
Training is key?
It really is.
And then experience. You just have to get out there and do it. Because it's a whole different thing to be in class. You don't have the amount of time that you do when you're out there doing it.
Yeah, you can be self-taught, but having a great teacher, really.
Yeah, and I'm in class with Nana's brother, Ian.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a really good teacher.
Small world, right?
Small world.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, over there.
Hi. If you, let's say they were going to resurrect Jetsia Dax, would you want to come back and play that character again?
Sure. I think what they do is just not even deal with anything. They just, she there she is, like Spock. There she is. Let's not even talk about it. No cloning, no this, no that, just there she is. Oh look, there's Dax.
We would love it.
I would love it.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Maybe they can bring Westmore out of retirement to do the
Oh
spot
my
instead.
gosh.
How great would that be?
It'd be so cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, good to see you again.
Thank
you. So you just always strike me as so wise and so grounded, and I love that about you. So I wondered if you could have a conversation with anybody, who would it be? Like anyone from history or someone you've always wanted to meet?
Golly, that's
It's a great question.
It is a great question. Well, the actress in me would really love to hang out with Jessica Lange. At any point, Frances was like, oh my God, amazing to me when I was young and I saw it for the first time.
She's pretty awesome on American Horror Story.
Oh my God,
She's really great.
Oh my gosh. And so is Zachary Quinto.
Zach is.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Have you seen Nosferatu?
No, not yet.
Yeah.
But I have the advantage of my mother-in-law being friends with him, and she invited us to a dinner party, and he was there, and it was like, oh my God. Like, I'm having dinner with Zach Quinto, like it's no big deal.
He's the real thing.
Yeah, he's cool. What a nice guy.
How about
So
some
talented.
other historical figure?
Lincoln.
Wow.
I think Lincoln would be super cool because he seemed super balanced and real about what was possible and trying really hard not to alienate anyone and trying to get as far as he possibly could with framed people.
That'd be fantastic.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what kind of person was that? That's an interesting person. Yeah. And he's tall. I love that he was tall.
Okay. Over there.
So one of the things that I think a lot of other fans love most about Deep Space Nine was that we actually got to go sort of on the ground and really explore alien societies in detail. So I wanted to ask you, what are some aspects of Trill society that you wish the show would have explored more?
How about just going there? I mean, I had family. How come I never saw them?
Is Trill specifically a world?
Yeah.
It's a world.
It's a world.
Wow.
Yeah. They should have exiled me to Trill.
Or at least done some
It was bad.
flashbacks to kind of.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
But you know what, in all fairness, it's a super selfish thing to want to know.
Well, that's the kind of show where that backstory would have worked and would have been good, but they're
Right.
juggling 50 different plot lines at the same time. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
But it would have been nice, right?
Yeah, why not? In a perfect world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, great question.
With you two, you were featured in the wonderful What We Left Behind documentary, which for anybody who hasn't seen it, like, it's just fantastic to watch. And I'd say, Terry, for me, it was cathartic as a fan to kind of get some closure for your departure there. Like, I understood better, like, what you were going through. And I'm wondering, was this experience cathartic for you to a certain degree? What was the experience doing the documentary or even getting to watch it?
Yeah, the first interview with Ira really was because, and this was 2013, because I hadn't spoken to anyone about it, and when it all was happening, during the 6th season, while all of the drama was happening behind the scenes, I didn't share it with my coworkers because I knew I was on my own at that point, and it felt, it just would have felt indulgent and weird to share that at work. Especially because I knew at that time in particular, there were people that were upset with me for just not wanting to just take it or leave it offer and be okay with just like, you know, you're like being, somehow I wasn't a team player when I was, you know, my contract ended. I had every right to do what I was doing. Actually, Ira said, didn't you wonder what was going to happen to your character? And I said, well, I found out. I died. I'm sorry. But I think that the response was kind of great because it was in that time where you never expected a regular character to die. So there was something really kind of great about being at that pivotal time in storytelling where it changed the game. And then suddenly you see shows where you, holy shit, they killed that guy. And now it's like, oh, now we watch. Then there was another few years go by and then it's like, you never know. You never know who's gonna die. Right? So it's kind of interesting to have been at that tipping point, for me anyway. But, you know, that's how narcissistic I am.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got time for one more question.
Wow. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
During your 6 years, is there a particular episode or scene or sequence that turned out to be way harder to film than you thought it was going to be, or something that you were happy with how it turned out, but you would never want to do that particular activity again?
You mean like waking up at 4 in the morning? Ooh, technobabble. I mean, as much as Nicole talks about it being super easy for her, it was not easy for me, and I have a short tongue, like it's always on the back of my teeth. I had my tongue clipped like 3 times to try to make it longer. I know it's really gross to know that about me, but so it makes it very hard for me to be super articulate. So those words are particularly physically difficult for me to say. So whenever I'd watch it and it turned out great, I was like, yes! So it was a huge accomplishment for me. But do I want to do it in that way again? No. But now with the experience that I do have, I would take more time and I would make sure I hired someone to help me with it instead of trying to do it all by myself.
Very good. Let's squeeze in this one last one, please.
So given that a lot of coloration and features have an evolutionary...
Amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Why do trail have spots?
I do not know, because they look good. They must look good, because
they do look good.
They keep, well, if they would say, what would
they are an enhancement to mating, of course.
Of course.
They make the krill look good, so...
It must be a looking good thing, because obviously they keep procreating and creating the spots. So you don't have spots.
There you go.
USOL.
Spots. Well, Terry, it's like an annual thing to have you at the show, and we love you at the show.
I love you too.
Keep coming back, okay?
And we are back. Hi, I'm Heather Ferris, your unofficial for STLV 2019, and I am joined by Fred and Rocky, and we are going to talk about the panel that we watched. So, what did you guys think about the Terry Farrell panel?
I love Terry. I think many of us do.
Yes.
Yeah, Terry's awesome.
She's great.
Yeah, it's just fun listening to her talk and her stories, and
yeah, definitely.
And then who she's to now?
Yes, I can't believe it.
They like announced it last time. Year,
yeah,
and it's been a year now, so it's beautiful, man. Gotta love it.
And it's too because I remember a couple years ago when her and Adam Nimoy like just got together and everything. And are they a thing? Like, are they together? Like, oh, look at the chemistry. What's going on with that? And now they're
beautiful
actually,
thing.
Yeah, so freaking cool. And then I also liked how they talked about with Farrell, how her character basically had 7 lifetimes that she had to display on screen, and how it was extremely difficult for her.
Quite the challenge.
It is, especially being 28 years old and you don't have that experience to go off
And
of.
7 entire lifetimes of different species and sexes and all of that. Fascinating. That's a great way to say it. Fascinating.
Fascinating.
Yes.
Exactly. Fascinating.
I always thought that they kind of pointed out that calling her old man.
Yes.
That didn't. I'm like, I kind of liked it. I always loved it when he. Man.
I did too. I thought it was cool.
It was cool.
I did too. I looked at it as like a term of endearment because in the show they explained that Dax's previous host was a man. Friends with
man's man.
Yeah.
Bring
on man's man.
Right.
You know?
Cigars, alcohol.
All of everything. Stuff.
Right, and he had been close friends with Benjamin Sisko. So when Sisko was calling Dax old man, it was kind of like a reflection of his, past relationship with Dax.
Right.
It wasn't intended condescending or
no,
anything.
and I don't think, I didn't see it as condescending. It didn't
no.
come across to me as condescending.
Not at all. No, never.
No, I felt the same way. It was like an endearment.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was kind of humorous too.
Yeah, it really was. And then I liked how they went into the relationship between Worf and Dax, I thought it was how they were talking about how they were just flirting with each other on screen and they were hoping to write in a relationship with that.
Yeah, it's kind of like hint, hint.
Yeah, right? Like, hey, we want to do something. Yeah. Just so you know.
Got a story idea for you.
Stomp your foot a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
This is important.
What did you guys think about Worf and Dax's relationship?
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was nice to see another side of not only Dax, Worf.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Worf was always really stoic and, Next Generation. And
you got to see his character evolve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, initially I was personally jealous, but I got over it. Terry was always great to see her jumping around on screen because she always had an enthusiastic bounce to her. Her eyes are always lit up and exciting to watch.
Yeah.
And to have the Worf to hook up, I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Because Worf is, he's. Of course, it was always funny to see the insides of the relationship.
Yeah.
Because when it gets clumsy, it's quite entertaining.
Yeah. And then I thought it was really interesting too how she about like her leaving and everything and what happened with her leaving, and you didn't expect such a main character like her to die because that just wasn't normal. I mean, all the main characters back in the 90s, you knew they would live. There was no main characters dying. It wasn't like Breaking Bad or, any of these other ones that are coming on, Game of Thrones.
I mean, typically that only happened if an actor or actress wanted to leave the show.
Right, and they quitting.
So behind the scenes, though, that's kind of that was one of the main complaints she brought up. You want to renegotiate this contract, or you want to ask for more, and they just say, "See ya."
Right.
Yeah.
And today maybe it wouldn't be so brutal.
Right.
You would think, but I'm blown away at that because I would think back then it wouldn't be so brutal because civilized people and whatnot, but it's cutthroat show business.
Yeah.
There's a bottom line attached to everything, and you can only juggle so far. Although you pointed out, well, the guys could totally do it, and they would still be there. They could renegotiate, and it didn't happen for her, right?
Yeah, it didn't happen.
Sad.
They just, they're like.
And it's surprising too that Paramount didn't go out of their way to keep her. Yeah, because it was just one last season.
It wasn't even that much.
It's kind of surprising that they weren't able to come to an agreement.
Right, and then with Nicole, you had to basically get used to this new character, and you had feelings. I'm sure some of you had feelings for Farrell, but you had this connection with the character, and then all of a sudden she's dead, and now you're supposed to have this.
It was still a fascinating way to do it, though.
Yeah.
I mean, to bring in the younger Ezri.
Yeah.
And have her play that complicated multiple lifetime character. I mean, and you could still watch it, and how she did it. I thought she nailed it.
Yeah.
I thought it was the same character. It was just different. And then feel for Worf.
Yeah. I know, right?
That really, that broke my heart.
Yeah.
Because poor Worf.
And how he had to just deal with that.
Yeah, you had the perfect thing going, and it's gone.
Yeah.
Right. So sad.
Yeah.
It is.
And then I also like too in the panel how she was talking about who would she like to meet, and she was saying that she would really like to meet Jessica Lange, the woman who is in American Horror Story. She has a big part in American Horror Story. The new Spock, Quentin, is that right? So she wanted to meet Lincoln. I thought those were really interesting.
Yeah, those are interesting
choices.
Quite
interesting choices, yeah.
Yeah. I wanted more on the Trills. Like, it would be nice if they had more background on the Trills, and she agreed with the audience about that, because I know that when I was watching it, I felt like I didn't get enough information about the Trills, and it was nice to hear her say the same thing when she was on the
it's a
stage.
fascinating idea, the Trill. And you could go so much more into it, into their politics, and visit their home world, and figure out all of the, the intricacies of his lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's interesting too, because it's almost like a glimpse at, okay, here's what immortality could look like, in a sense that when the body dies, the memories and experiences kind of get transferred to another person.
Yeah.
And of course, the fascinating story where she meets up with the previous lover, but the sex has changed because things have changed.
Yeah. And then weren't they saying that was like the first bi kiss?
Yes. That was a big freaking deal.
Oh, that was awesome. And nowadays, people wouldn't even look at it, but that was a huge deal back then.
Yeah, it's huge.
So cool. I'm glad they did that. Me too. And then I also thought that what she was talking about, where would she ever do this again? And she's like, I'm not doing that makeup again. I'm not wake up call at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Early call times are no fun.
No. Especially when you have to work all day and all night. It's probably like, what, a couple hours of sleep?
I'm amazed to hear the stories of TV production where 12, 13-hour days are normal.
Yes.
That's like, wow.
Yeah.
That's grueling.
That's one thing that surprised me about Discovery, just from the standpoint that it sounds like even though the newer series has a shorter series length, the production schedule is still just aggressive. Like when they're filming, they still have these long days.
Time is money. You got to get it all in.
Yeah.
It is.
I would have expected that if they were filming less episodes, they might have taken a more leisurely pace.
Oh, there's nothing leisurely about it.
You got to remember now.
This is Hollywood.
With today's production, Discovery, they got to do all that computer effects, all the special effects, and computers are fast now, and they're amazing, but it can take months to do these shots.
Yeah.
Months.
Wasn't in one of the panels, and we'll get to that, come back here, wasn't one of the panels they were saying that it took them like 8 months to actually do that?
I think that's right. It was something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's...
But I guess the point I was trying to make is it seems like when you are filming, the daily production schedule hasn't gotten any lighter. It's still...
It's all about maintaining that bottom line.
Yeah.
Make your buck bang, as it were.
Exactly.
Get the bang for the buck.
Exactly.
So if you can get it in there and get the studio cleared out and get it ready for the next thing, more power to you.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I remember hearing a story from Leonard Nimoy when he made his appearance on Next Generation for a 2-part episode, and someone was asking him, so did you like being back on television for a little bit? And he said that he liked having that experience again, but what he didn't like was the production schedule, having to be there early, the long days, and it's nice to do it as a guest star, but he wouldn't want to do it on a routine basis.
Yeah, totally.
Just kind of similar in a way to what Terry was saying.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much all that I have. Is there anything else that you guys want to talk about with the panel before we wrap this up?
Big fan of spots.
Big fan of the spots.
Gotta love the spots.
Definitely, especially in the bathing suit. You can see all of them.
They go all the way down. And they were hand placed.
They were hand placed, yeah.
It's beautiful.
I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that does it.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you for listening to this commentary. We appreciate it. We hope you enjoyed the panel. And come back and join us again next time for the next panel. We hope to see you soon. Live long and prosper.